Hello there and welcome back to War Thunder. Today I present you yet again another big fish of the War Thunder pond. This time it's the Russian light cruiser, the Krasny Kavkas. Sorry about the pronunciation. As a German that tries to pronounce a Russian name with an English accent, hopefully, it's bound to fail. Nevertheless, this ship is fantastic and it brings the biggest naval guns to the fight currently. Now again, battle rating 5.0, rank 4, bit of pointless status here, as it is still a closed beta. It is down to subject to change everything. The other thing is, Gaijin was nice to me, despite criticizing them. I wrote them an email, hey, can I have those three ships, the PR-206, the PR-7U Premium Destroyer and the Krasny Kavkas, and they said, well, here, have a 30 days test drive, and I gladly take it, because, it would take quite some time to research through that, even with premium account and so forth, despite doubling the RP income on the Gaijin side for quite some time right now. But still, I wanted to have it, and they gave it to me fully upgraded. By the way, here is a bit of a mistake. It says 85mm guns, but the rest says 100mm, and they really look more like 100mm. So, main guns, big, but just 4 of them, not the faster turret rotation speed, very long reload, as we can see here, for the main batteries. At best 15.2, stock 20, for me it's 16.1, and auxiliary caliber reload 4 seconds to 2 seconds, and we will come to this just in a moment. The next thing is AA, secondaries, and armor, and X-ray. So first of all, I want to talk about the size of the guns. 180mm B1K naval cannons with 812 rounds overall, and a very high ratio of armor piercing, to which I will also come in a moment. The significance of caliber is that it can contain more high explosive content, which will deal more damage. So that's the general rule. But if you look on tank cannons, if you look at the high explosive containment of tank shells of caliber 75 to 76.2mm, it ranges from the American and British solid shots to the German with low high explosive content to the Russians with higher, and then overall the overkill shells from the Japanese, just to give you a very rough overlook of where the spectrum lies. And so there is also a bit of difference in the high explosive containment of 6-inch guns that the German Emden and also the American Trenton share with each other. The stat cards are not final, so I actually have no idea how much high explosive containment those shells have, but I guess when you have a 100 kilogram heavy high explosive warhead, it acts more like a 100 kilogram bomb, and I'm not quite sure how much you have to drop or distribute on a cruiser or destroyer with a plane to do a lot of damage. Yeah, not that many. But then you also have armor piercing shell, the B32. And just look at this. Again, a 100 kilogram heavy warhead. No idea how much high explosive material it contains. The stat card is not final. I have no idea about the fuse delay. More on this in a moment. But the fuse sensitivity is 50mm, and just for the lols, at 10 meters flat penetration is 349mm. That's good enough to penetrate dreadnought belt armor, or hell, even parts of the modern World War II battleships. But is it good enough to punch through the Emden's turtleback armor layout? The answer is sometimes not, but more than often, yes, it actually does. So the fuse delay might be good enough, but it depends on the angle, on the distance, on the angle of impact, if it bypasses here this and punches right through there, which is then a lucky shot. But most of the time the impact camera told me that it would go straight through both layers. So yeah, it needs the Alpha Strike to compensate for the horrible accuracy, the low rate of fire, and the lack of amount of guns. Just 4 of them at best. And you have to expose quite a bit of broadside to bring all 4 guns to bear, which I recommend, because to hit an enemy at all is quite difficult. But not just is it the DPM and the alpha strike capabilities of the guns, but also the long range capabilities. Leaving the horrible accuracy aside compared to the Emden and the USS Trenton, hell, even some of the destroyers at long ranges, it also depends on the muzzle velocity and the energy retention of the shells, hell, also overall the trajectory, which then reduces the amount of lead that you give or have to give, the time that the enemy ship or vessel has to dodge the incoming shells. Potentially we're talking here about 12 kilometers from spawn to spawn, and then, you know, surprising the enemy with an alpha strike, of which I have a hilarious clip. So sorry about the background noise. Again, weather has gone better, but window still has to get opened. What a silent car. So armor, let's begin with this. Main belt 75, upper belt 25 millimeters throughout the entire length of the ship, which is a first, I guess. And then a mid plate of 20 millimeter, deck armor of 20 millimeter with on the, well, over the citadel 25 millimeters with some overall pyramidal shaped armor plating to protect parts of the funnel. Now, the main guns are part of where the ship excels. As I said, long range capabilities, alpha strike. But it's also hilarious how many secondary guns we have. 6 double-barreled 100 millimeter, turrets, and we have 3 per side, 6 guns. That's some more firepower than some of the destroyers, with a reload down to 2 seconds with an A screw. 2 seconds. So if you come around the corner and you miss with your main battery with the alpha strike, you just switch to them and daka the enemy down. And it doesn't really matter what it is, light cruiser, destroyer, patrol boat. The sheer flood of shells, the amount of salvos that can hang in the air already at a distance of 3 kilometers is spectacular. And then, you know, you have 76, 45, 37 millimeter cannons, 12.7 millimeter machine guns, hell, even 12 torpedoes, 6 per side, overall 4 launchers. This thing is just covered in firepower, and I love this. It has armor, but in a direct firefight at short distance, I really have problems dealing with Emdens. Trentons, you can deal with them because you can straight punch through the armor, but if the Emden captain is good, oof, that is just a hard nut to crack down. So, all the fears of people that say, oh, you know, just look at this number, it's overpowered, it's Russian bias. Not really. It depends on the circumstances. And in terms of, you know, just going in and just slugging it out at short ranges, you know, being the ex-murderer that everybody wants to be in an online gaming, free-to-play title, I think the Emden is still better, especially at dealing with destroyers in a quick fashion. You will gun down destroyers, no doubt about this. You can ammo rack them with high explosive shells, a bit more likely than the Emden, but the Emden just kills all the crew with a higher rate of fire. Again, let's quickly compare it. Here, gunners, main caliber reload, at best 15.2 seconds, but again, as I said, 2 seconds for the auxiliary caliber reload. That then brings us to the Emden, and look at this, down to 7.5. That's half the reload with more guns, 3 times as many guns in a perfect broadside than you have. So that's the difference then between 6-inch and close to 7-inch guns. And even the auxiliary caliber reload, you still have 2 seconds. You have again 3 times as many than this time on the Krasny Kavkas, but you get the point. The Emden and also the USS Trenton are more bound to really deal with the main guns, and purely with the main guns, with the secondary being a funny gadget. That's about it. With this one, you really have to switch to the secondaries at times, at close quarters, to defend yourself from patrol boats, and you easily can wreck destroyers really quickly. Again, 6 guns per side with a 2-second reload with the high explosive shells. That's a lot of damage, and flex tape does not save any destroyer. So I think that's it. One final thing though, I mostly use, unlike on the destroyers or maybe even on the Emden, I use mostly high explosive. That's just the most efficient ammunition type. At ranges of 8, 9, 10 kilometers, you lose so much penetration. The armor is angled, and even then, if you punch through the armor, sometimes the shells just don't get activated, and you just hit with a few. But the high explosive shell damage, it can fragment through several compartments of a ship, killing a lot of crew with a single hit. And this is why big high explosive shells are actually better than big armor piercing shots in terms of ships at long ranges. In this particular case, it is very, very obvious. So without further ado, let's hop into some gameplay and let's see what is what. Before I come to the very last battle that I want to show you, I want to share with you this magnificent salvo. That was the second salvo of the game and the first one at this guy. And I thought I would have missed aimed, and it's a range of 7.5 kilometers. And then this happens. A glorious ammo rack detonation at long range. Oh, that was glorious. Now you might think, that was just a German destroyer. This is a Russian cruiser. It has to lose. What about this American glue-sniffing cruiser? Ouch. That was lucky, but I punched through heavily angled armor at quite some range. Look at that. Yeah, direct ammo rack detonation. And then what about the AA defense? Of course it's a weakness, isn't it? Well, not so much, to be honest. Let's have a look at this. So he's coming in. I have problems aiming and readjusting, but there's enough lead to shred off his wing at some point and make him crash into the ground. And the second plane just crashed. He gets a bomb off, and after 4 seconds of repair, I'm good. Yeah. And at the end of that battle, I shot down 4 planes and killed quite some ships and had a lot of assists. So yeah, but ultimately the question is, how much damage do the guns do? Broadside on a destroyer with HE. Look at that. Wow. From 100% to down to 62% with a central hit on a Fletcher class that at that point had armor, but it was just too much power. He already slows down. He's burning. A frontal hit down to 27%, and we were incredibly unlucky that we weren't hitting the compartment with the ammunition. Otherwise it might have blown up. So, and then here is the third salvo, and actually we instant ammo rack here a Kavkas or knock out the entire crew with 1 hit. Then this one is I hit this guy with a few shots, but they were not really significant, and you also can see that something significant happened. So this scene is very important. It shows you a side effect of the damage of those huge HE shells. They actually make enemy ships flood. The holes that you punch into the side actually make flooding damage. I'm not sure when it was introduced. I really did not notice it when I played last time my Emden. And yeah, you can see he is sinking in the hit cam. You also can see it in just a moment how much buoyancy he has left. In fact, it is 79, and it will go down later on. And he beaches himself to partially, well, save him, at least for the moment, down to 71. He's flooding rapidly. He's down on crew to 30%, reducing the effectiveness of damage control. Another hit into the bridge, 67%. Again, he might save himself here for the moment by beaching. And yeah, that is just the power of those big HE shells. There is now another destroyer. It's a Kavkas, and obviously we want to take him out. Can we do it? Come on, come on, come on. Careful aim, careful aim, careful aim. We adjusted. Shots out into the direction of the ammo rack. Ah, we were unlucky. And we actually lost a turret, one of the front turrets. That's a bit of a drawback. And now the guns have to rotate here quite a bit to get at least the 3 shells on him again. I switch now to the secondaries, and now watch how quick the reload and how quick the damage output is. It is just the standing power, the reload, and just the stable firing platform that makes them better than a lot of the other destroyers that are equipped with similar sized guns, because they cannot fire as fast with not as many of them, and they just cannot hold the aim that well without receiving damage. Back to this guy here with a single shell. Yeah, he's down to 7%, 54% buoyancy. And now watch, this guy came here around the corner. I have some torpedoes that I can fire at him, but he's fast, my torpedoes are slow, I aim them, and now I switch also to the other side of the secondaries, and let's just see how quickly we can melt him down. We are down to, we took him already down to 74% crew, 60%, another salvo's coming out, 50%. You know, before he will take me down and will punch through my armor and do significant damage, he might go for the main guns, but it's the secondaries that are actually killing him, and this secondary power feels 3, 4, 5 times more efficient than secondaries in World of Warships on German battleships, and I've played them. 6% crew. We are aiming here now for the remaining crew compartments, and he is down. You can see another main battery turret has been taken out, but now I'm stuck in. A new guy has spawned in a Kavkas, dangerous destroyer with a high rate of fire, 5 guns, 128mm. They can punch through my armor if he chooses to load AP. And now again with the secondaries, let's see how quickly we can take him down. Actually pretty fast, because he has no armor at all, especially around the armor storage. So we actually blew him up with 105mm HE guns. So yeah, even the secondaries are really dangerous. But I hope I could make it apparent the difficulty switching between the main batteries and the secondaries, which you actually don't have to do, or do not really have the option on the USS Trenton or the Emden. Now here comes a very big torpedo spread. I cannot avoid here the most left one, and he actually sets my ammo rack on fire. It explodes, but sometimes you have the RNG that it doesn't really wreck the entirety of your ship. Now look at this picture here. I'm burning, but I have no flooding. Fire is extinguished, and look at this beautiful picture. And this is a bit of a broken part, I'd say, because both turrets are actually laying on the side of the ship, or on top of it, and they have been blown out clean. And the funny thing is now that if we look then at the rolling picture again, that just the frontal ammo rack has exploded, but not the one of the second turret. Yet the second turret has popped out. Now the first turret shouldn't have any ammunition left, so I'm speeding forward here, but both turrets fire once. Again, forward for the reload, and now I fire again, and surprise, well, both turrets have ammunition again. So this is a bit weird. I don't know if this is a new feature or it just has been added for this ship alone, or all the other ships. I have to test the other ships as well, but for now I'm just concentrating on this one, so you can see it as some sort of first impressions, and I think that is kind of interesting. So I've taken now damage to the frontal ammo rack, and now a plane comes in and he drops some good bombs on me. They explode, the rear turrets popped out, you might have seen it, but again I survived that. So I survived 2 ammo rack detonations on the front and the rear of the ship. Yeah, I think this is a tough nut to crack as well, but I think it's more down to the size of the ship and maybe the armor or the compartment layout. I don't know. And there is a big nasty main caliber shell hit of armor piercing high explosive. into this Russian river patrol boat, and he actually survives. So yeah. Then here is the destroyer. I switch target, of course, aim, lead, fire, shots are out. And this is now the battle that I wanted to show you what you actually have to do. Now, as glorious as everything looks, there are of course some real problems with the map design and the balance. The major problem with the map design or the match design, how the match goes, is always the same. It is the same with the KMS Emden, but I guess also the USS Trenton. They're just mostly too slow to go into a fight, to go into a cap and decide the outcome of the battle. In this battle, I was fast enough, and my team actually kept the capture zones long enough equal, so that the enemy team didn't have too much of a points advantage up until I arrived. I cut out here the first 2 minutes of just sailing in a straight line. Now you can see the hail of bullets going towards the enemy. It's very intimidating. It is kind of shell-shocking the enemy, more of a psychological effect rather than effective hitting them. At this point, I should have probably switched to, well, now I switched to the secondaries. There you can see many more hits coming in, and I tell you, more hits of smaller guns are better than no hits with big guns. You have to toggle your gunners, because obviously then the gunners will shoot wildly at planes with 180mm guns, probably armor piercing, and sometimes you just then need the reload when the enemy is coming around the corner like this. Now you can see I'm trying to saturate here the crew compartment, aiming here for the rear of the ship, where you can see there is no damaged part at all. We hit the top of the rear of one of the turrets, and we actually blow him up. So at this point now I need to turn and at least contest B. None of our team members is in the near vicinity. They have fought valiantly in the middle. C is not at our hands, and so far, you know, I've done my job so far, but I lost a lot of matches, to be honest, because I couldn't reach the caps. That is a significant problem, as well as if you get the wrong map and you have nothing to shoot, then what's the point of it? You know, what is the point of having a light cruiser with all these big guns, all the secondaries, all this AAA on board, when nobody attacks you, when you have nobody to shoot, while the enemy has many more caps than your team, and you lose because of that? That is frustrating. There is no easy solution, I guess, to it, but Gaijin needs to do something about it, to actually, as funny as it sounds, keep some, well, some value to big ships. They might get the kills, but you easily can avoid them, dodge them, hide behind a rock cover, outmaneuver them, where then their guns just won't reach you. And that is just simply a factual problem. It's not the ship's fault, rather than where it spawns. And again, here you can see how much more effective the high rate of fire, the DPM, is of the 105mm guns compared to the big guns that just are less accurate, much less rate of fire, and also much less guns. And we still got something for the capturing of the point, and now we are in the infield, so to say, and this is where you want to be with such a ship. However, I think now the secondaries have more worth to the survival of the ship than, well, the other ones, except for something like this. Good night, sunshine. Oh, that's a lot of damage. Yeah, you like that, don't you? Balanced ship. As you can see, you need multiple hits even with those massive 180mm guns. Now I try my luck here with again the full volume of the 105s, and we actually then detonate the ammunition, which is fun. Why didn't I do this with the big high explosive shells? That's the question. It's still kind of a mystery in terms of game mechanics, how really sometimes you ignite the ammunition, or if it's RNG, or if there's a limited ammo rack blast radius of a shell that then still blackens the complete compartment but not the ammo rack inside of it. It's weird. There is still an RNG factor involved in it. And yeah, another kill. 5 kills so far. Pretty nice. And now we are actually really where we need to be for our team. And this is kind of again a bit of a problem. What can such a ship do against I don't know. What can a patrol boat do against a light cruiser? Sure, suicide torpedo attack. But if I have the right settings, I can just shoot all day long here with the small guns and even drop you down before, well, you can fire your torpedoes, and they still need a lead, you see. So I still try my best here versus this SF-40 Leichte. You know, it's kind of annoying that you still have to aim here for the compartments, and this is now the drawback of not having AP, that you really have to aim like that for all the compartments. Finally we blow him up, and yeah, that is now an Emden. 6 kills so far. Can we now take down the Emden with our big guns in the duel? I have to admit, he got shot a bit before. He's firing at somebody else. This is now a salvo of HE. I switch to AP and we knock out the remaining crew. So we shot aside from the belt armor and we killed the remaining crew. Double strike. That was really, really nice. So what's my verdict on this ship? Well, it's situational. Of course, you saw here the good bits. You saw what it can do under the best of circumstances if the enemy is misplaying, if they come at you one at a time, switching between the main batteries and the secondaries, switching between the ammunition type. I'm still in the learning phase of getting the grips on every single last detail of this ship, but I can tell you it is really great, really fun, but in a close quarters engagement versus an Emden that's actually shooting at you actively, you will run into some problems. The main batteries are the most awesome thing about the ship, but also the biggest drawback. You go to the extremes, you have trade-offs from you know, Alpha Strike to DPM, from big guns to having not many of them. You still have a slow turret rotation speed and also slow rate of fire, but therefore you have that really great long range capabilities and the Alpha Strike, and also the option to switch to secondary. So there is no real big gap in terms of what you can deal with. I think the fact that you have no armor piercing shots on the 105mm or 85mm, whatever Gaijin calls it, they feel more like 105s. It is a great ship, and if Gaijin continues that trend, big guns will have a point in the game. But to make them really more dependent on your skill rather than on the situation that you're put in, that is still a task for Gaijin to fulfill. So those are the results. We actually get a survivor medal for 41,000 civil lines, 3,300 modification research points, second in place with nearly 1,500 score points. That's it for me today with the biggest ship currently in the game, the Russian light cruiser, the Krasny Kavkas or Krasny Kavkas. However you pronounce it, let me know in the comment section again. I might look it up on DictCC or some other website how the pronunciation is really, you know, as good as I'm with my English. Yeah. not really. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Let me know if you want to see more ships, or if I should return to tanks, if you're interested in the Russian Navy in particular at all, and bigger ships and guns and how they play, or if you just want to see something else. That's it for me today. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Please give this video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other in the skies, on the battlefields, and on the waves of War Thunder.